Hi everyone. Hi. Hello. And you even called out my name. I'm impressed. Someone said, hi Nisha. Thank you. How is everyone? Welcome. Today we're going to flex and start to work through one of my favorite superpowers. You probably guessed what superpower it is from the title of this talk, but it's one of my favorite, and it's one that we can learn and build over time, and it helps us as Agilists, as Scrum Masters, as Agile coaches. That's why I love it so much. So today we're going to make sure that we are sat next to someone, or as close enough as you feel comfortable to sit next to someone that you don't know. Are you able to locate yourself that you recently met? Lovely. Okay, feel into this for me. How does it feel to sit next to someone you don't know versus someone that you know? Does it feel comfortable? Do you feel a bit edgy? Do you feel how? Just feel into that for me. You've been at this conference for about a day and a half now, right? Who would you ask to watch your bag if you went to the toilet? Someone you know, someone you don't know. Who would you ask if you left your, well, now it's phones, isn't it? If you left your phone at home and we had to pay for our own coffee here, someone you know or someone you don't know? Which feels more comfortable? Which feels more easier? Just think about that for a minute. Right, what we want to do is get started with a little experiment. And if it goes wrong because who better than to take it on the chin when experiments go wrong than Agilists, right? So, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, but I'd love to try this out with you guys. So, now that you're sat next to someone that you know the least around here, I want you to take a minute, if you can, each, so you've got a couple of minutes to do this. Tell this person your name and an interesting fact about you that you probably haven't told them already. So something that they don't already know about you. You have 2 minutes and I will time you. Have fun. Everything okay? Okay. Okay, guys, come back to me. I love it. It's like the simmering, it simmers down. It's what my old history teacher used to say when he wanted us to be quiet. Mr. Lippman, he used to always say, simmer down now, children, simmer down. But actually, I grew, then that became like a little comfort blanket to me as the sound just starts like, sort of dying down. It's like a nice feeling. So How do you feel about the person that you just met? Does it feel easier than before? How did you use your time with them? Did you use it with intention? Did you make that person feel comfortable, understood, listened to? Do you know? The way you made that person feel in that moment is your superpower. You had the power at that point to make them have a good or a bad experience. And that is your superpower. So, welcome to this session and thank you for taking part in that activity. Today, we're going to talk about why empathy is important in Agile delivery, and I'll take you through stuff of my experience. And yeah, I've been caught out many times. I thought I understood empathy or I got it, but life then tests you and it catches you out. Empathy and being around people like this in a supportive atmosphere can also enhance performance. So who remembers this movie? Hands up. Castaway. Good old Tom Hanks. So a bit of a primer for those who didn't put their hands up. Gets stranded on an island. And yes, that is a volleyball that you're seeing there. But this, and you have Norman Tiblet, guy who coined the term social facilitation in 1898. He watched cyclists and he saw that cyclists who cycled and trained alongside others actually enhanced their own performance. So known tasks and tasks that are repeated can be like enhanced and you get encouraged to perform those. That relates, and that reminded me about this scene, because if you remember this scene in Castaway, and I did do a bit of an ugly cry, I'm sorry, I'll have to admit, but Tom Hanks was there, like trying to create fire with the wood, trying to create fire, like a manic person. He gets so frustrated with himself, he can't do it. His hand's bloodied, he throws the volleyball, it's a volleyball I think, I'm not a sports girl, away from him, and then just sits, and he's fed up. Finds a ball, puts a face on it, obviously his hand's bloody, so it makes a print of a sort of a face on it. His fingers are hair. And then he puts that on there, and then he looks at the ball, and he starts having a little conversation. So it starts simmering up again. And when that conversation happens, guess what? The fire starts lighting, and the castaway has a fire on the island. And when he parted with Wilson on that raft, I won't cry, but I did do an ugly cry, I have to admit. So you have Norman Tiblet to thank for that idea of social facilitation, but it can work the other way as well. When there are tasks that we are not sure of, or tasks that are complex, or coming up here and doing a presentation and an experiment and getting your words twisted, or not knowing how this is going to go and be vulnerable, that's when we need to show up in environments that we work in as well, extra specially with as much empathy and as much support, because it can go the other way. If someone feels like they're being watched, that could impair performance. So, paying attention, like you guys just did, to each other, creating that connection is like the firewood to your empathy. You can't feel what another person is feeling if you aren't paying attention to them. So empathy is our ability to understand and share the feelings of another. What does someone else have to be going through to behave in a certain way? That's important for us to pick up in our roles, in our worlds. Why is that important to our landscape today? Well, I got in touch with my friend ChatGPT, and yes, I am that sad person who always addresses ChatGPT, dear friend. I can't believe that's a cringeworthy confession that's coming out of my mouth right now, because I think I'm going to end up on a kill list somewhere, but I do it. So, And it's important to share, right? Because, then you know my mind and my way of thinking. So I asked ChatGPT, I described a landscape to it to say, show me what I believe looks like a landscape for what our change landscape looks like today. What does that actually look like? And this metaphor came up in my mind. So if it was a landscape of change, and our agile landscape at the moment, it would be a land of construction. There's rubble where things haven't been understood, where foundations haven't been prepared. There's half-constructed buildings here where things have been abandoned and the lights ain't on anymore. Someone's just walked off. Agile transformations that haven't worked well. And then there are other buildings too. Other buildings that are rising into the sky because there's been that camaraderie, there's been that empathy, there has been that interest in each other and things to drive us forward. So that is my view of what our landscape actually looks like at the moment. But don't take my word for gospel. There is data to look at as well. So I'm sure all of you have heard this statistic before. McKinsey has noted 70% of all transformation efforts ultimately fail. That's bleak. But that also reveals opportunity for us too.
I think McKinsey said 70% of all transformation efforts ultimately fail unless you hire McKinsey.
Unless you hire McKinsey. I love that. And I love that you interjected. No, I love that you did because you're comfortable enough to do it. Thank you. I love that you did that. Agile runs into trouble when it rubs against conservative practices and behaviors of traditional organizations. Well, yeah, because the foundations haven't been created in the way that they should be. There's been a misunderstanding, or some organization or leadership has been sold a silver bullet. It's understandable. And then this one is my favorite, and it's one that's been revealed recently by the company I work for, and Digital, who's commissioned a report on the CEO divide, which I'd love you guys to read up and look at. And some of the statistics are a little shocking. So over 1/3 of CEOs, and Digital went and polled 600 CEOs across the UK, US, and the Netherlands to really understand how prepared this leadership are to drive value from their technology. 30% of CEOs doubt that their own knowledge is in that same space to drive the growth that they need. 64% of CEOs said that they felt like an analog CEO in a digital world. Now that's quite shocking, but if there is a stat there that reveals opportunity, if there is a stat there that reveals how much empathy we need to have in environments that we're walking into, that's one. Having lack of empathy often leads to that divide. And when I walk in to team scenarios, or I walk in to coach teams, I often observe that there is a lot of signal scrambling that's going on between leadership's perception of what's happening, how they're driving things, and the teams on the ground and what they're trying to achieve. Normally, it's classified when I get into the roots with teams by two types of conversations. We were supposed to get this 2 sprints ago. Where is it? What's happened? And in that kind of scenario, there is a disconnect. Expectations haven't been managed. But in scenarios where expectations have managed and there is that understanding of each other, look different. I get it, says leadership. How do we better get to understand the work involved? How do we collaborate? How can I come more into your space? How can you come more into mine? There is that healthy dialogue between the two parties. And that is something that I've spotted. That is a key difference in conversations that have happened in my coaching history so far. So, I said to you, I think I said to a couple of you when you walked in, you think you've got this empathy malarkey. You think, I've met enough teams right now, I've worked with enough organizations. Yeah, I've got it. But then life catches you out. So I'm going to talk to you very quickly about an experience my sister and I had. COVID happens, right? And we love traveling. So my sister and I, we go on adventures. Rochelle will know what it's like to be like endlessly wanderlust. So will Evelyn. But COVID happened, so you're saving money and you think, right, save the money, spend it on the house. We saw a tradesman and we saw his work was awesome in the neighborhood. Went to check it out, got introduced to Jimbo. And you can see the front lawn, he did the outside first, then went inside. The front lawn's looking amazing. I'm getting texts from people in the neighborhood. Nice one, girls at number 3. Your front lawn's looking amazing. It's great. What else are you going to do to it? I'm getting excited. I'm feeling really proud. Jimbo moves to the inside of the house next. We love Christmas, right? We save up for Christmas. AD, don't laugh. I cried. Yeah? I cried. Because there's a lot of inner turmoil that happened for me here. October turns into November when Jimbo moves inside the house. The outside is great. The inside, however, there was paint splatters on some of the carpet. The joins between the ceiling and the wall weren't great. We were spotting things and we did not know how to approach it. One thing about Jimbo, he's a really, really proud man, but identities have been changed to protect the innocent. He really is the innocent. You'll find out in a minute. And with Jimbo, really, really proud man. He's a guy that if he noticed that me and my sister Nita were on calls all day, he would be the one to bring us a mug of Yorkshire tea. Has to be Yorkshire tea, by the way. Right? He would be the one to bring us tea to our desk saying, girls, what's going on? You haven't got up from work. Just such a lovely, lovely guy. All of a sudden, turns quiet. Leaves the house every day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't hear a peep out of him during the day. And time is going on and we're seeing this. I mean, can you relate? We were paying for a service and it's not happening. And Christmas is coming. So we sit down and we have a chat with Jimbo. Like me, he's not a morning person, so I get it. And we sit down, we have a chat with him, and we say, Jimbo, we've noticed that you're not your usual self. We didn't point out every single error around the house. You're not your usual self. What's going on? And it took a few minutes to prise out of him that his diabetes was getting worse. Because his diabetes was getting worse, his eyesight was getting worse. And because he felt pressure to do a job for us by a deadline, he didn't really know how to tell us that he wanted that time off. So we sat with him, we spoke with him, we said, what can we do to work this out? What can we do to help you and make sure that we get what we need too? His son was available. His son was available after a week, so Jimbo could go and get himself sorted out, end up with a nice, sexy pair of glasses. But in the meantime, what was happening to me internally was a lot of things. Before I had that conversation, am I getting ripped off? Why the sudden change? And then when I stopped putting myself in the picture, and please, don't be fooled by the smile. That frowny face does turn up from time to time. I even went there. I went, well, if it was my dad, how would I want someone to treat him? My dad's a tradesman, also a very proud guy. How would I? But I was still putting myself in that situation. The moment I started asking myself, what must this feel like for him, was the moment that was a bit of a breakthrough that gave me the guts to go and have that conversation. In the end, he went and got his eyes checked out, got back on the job, and we were able to recover some time, not all time, some time. And what did I learn from this? That you need to not block out those tough emotions. When they come up and when you need to have those conversations, they are actually invitations for you to have those conversations with the people around you in your teams. It revealed a big blind spot for me, actually, my own resistance to have this type of conversation with someone that was coming to the house every single day. But once I had the conversation, it gave me the clarity that I needed, and Jimbo got his glasses. So, are you ready for me to introduce you to a team where we can try and flex this muscle a bit? These are the loyalty pioneers. They work in the loyalty space. They're a team. They're in London, obviously, this time, because I'm giving the talk here. Over the past couple of months, they're off their game. They've got a new product owner, or product manager, as I like to call them. New product manager, product owner, and you're a new Scrum Master. Put yourself in that role, okay? And you're catching them in a room where they're doing their sprint planning. Here they are. I want you to tell me what you notice about this room and about these bubbles.
They're not talking to each other?
I love it. They're not. They're just thinking these things. They're thinking these things. Jonas is like, yeah, I'm easy. I'm cool with this estimate that we've given this story. I'm okay with it. Lena's worried. There are some concerns there with her. Fred's thinking, just give it a higher estimate. There's a lot of unknowns in this. You'd be surprised. I put this up on LinkedIn just to ask a random question around what do you think people are feeling and going on around the room? What's going on around the room? People replied saying, give the work to Jonas. He knows it all. give it all. Just give it all to Jonas. What are you wasting your time for? Other people said, I'd get out of that room fast. Like, you're a Scrum Master. So, now that you've had time to digest this, what do you think is going on around the room? Can we get a sense of the emotions? Shall I bring it back? Yes, Addy.
Thank you. They look very disconnected.
Yeah.
They don't seem to realise they're on the same team. That's my impression.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Don't feel comfortable with sharing their thoughts with one another.
Yeah, they're keeping a lot to themselves, aren't they? And you're like, well, this sprint's about to start. You're going to get started on this. Are even you ready to come up with a sprint goal for what you're going to do? Any other suggestions before we move on? Yeah, go for it.
Maybe a little bit of passive aggressiveness, like sitting there, not talking with each other in their own minds.
Yeah? Yeah? Is there someone else?
Yeah, I was going to say body language looks like a good indicator.
Yes. Yeah, it's all concerned, sort of head down.
They're also, depending on how long they've been together, sometimes there's less empathy for people that you know. Do you know what I mean? Like
I hear you.
I get more. I feel more psychologically safe doing a talk, for example, than sometimes being on a stand-up, because people go into their groove and they just behave wrong.
Yes.
So I can pick that up, but people are just in their groove in the wrong way.
Yes. What needs to happen, do you think, to let the team say these words out loud? What needs to happen? If you put yourself in the role of that Scrum Master, what would be one of the, not everything, don't tell me everything, but what would be one of the first things that you would do? Go for it. Mr. McKinsey.
I'm from Liverpool, that wouldn't happen. I'd play a game. A game. Do something fun, because I think people straight away to try and get people a bit more connected, like there's some sort of something, tell us something we don't know about you, like we did earlier on.
Get them out of that funk, right? And I would challenge people if they said you couldn't do it in the middle of a sprint planning. Why not? If that's a place where you need to get results, why not? Why not do that to put the team in the best place? Anyone else? What would you do? No right or wrong, by the way. I'd like some suggestions.
Get them talking, ask them. Try to prompt them for someone to express an opinion.
Yeah. Three easy words. Tell me more. Why are you so reluctant to size this story? Tell me more.
vulnerability. I think that as Scrum Master, if you start by kind of showing that you're open and vulnerable, maybe start getting them to talk as well.
Yeah, yeah. I don't get it either. Can someone explain it to me? Yeah.
One other thing is that their negativity seems to be more inward rather than outward. So it's possible that just they haven't started a conversation. They just need somebody to prompt that and also facilitate to make sure that also all of the ideas get heard and nobody gets left behind.
I love that. So I'm going to take you through, I'm conscious of the time, and I'll take you through a few techniques, but I'll flash this up and we'll share the slides with you afterwards. But creating the right environment, the speech bubbles look like this. They're no more thought bubbles. They're now speech bubbles where people are admitting with vulnerability. But look at Jonas there. I feel confident with my estimate. Let me share what I know. Before he just wanted to get on with it. Let's just get on with this. Let's just get on with it. Right? But we don't know a lot about Jonas. Not yet. So let me show you some techniques that I use that I think are really cool, that really work well for me and the teams that I've worked with. Firstly, is a manual of me. So this I have borrowed from Cassie Robinson's user manual of me. And you'll read that and you'll see that the guy that you see, like lying back on his beanbag, looking like, I don't really care, can we just get on with it, is really not the person underneath what you see. There is so much more to Jonas. He wants development. He wants to develop his technical skills. He even wants to pair more with someone. There's so much rich information here for a Scrum Master to take and run with, right? There's so much stuff here that a Scrum Master can be empowered with, if they so wish. Empathy mapping. It's another tool that I love using. I love using empathy mapping, but with stakeholders and stakeholders in my network of stakeholders as a Scrum Master. So I have a project management background, right? You could say I'm a project manager in Reform since becoming a Scrum Master. But like I have that stakeholder engagement to connect with stakeholders that not only you interface with for what you're doing now, but stakeholders before you need them in your network has been ingrained. So I try and use that, but I do it with the team. So the team feels really involved in that process. They're not just people that turn up to a sprint review like it's a movie trailer, like every 2 weeks, right? Ladder of influence, building consensus. This is a great tool, and there is a slide in this pack working this through with Lena, who was so scared about that user story and how this can work. But you've got to be careful, because what this does is it lets you walk through the things that you see, the things that you then believe, and the actions that you take. You see that little reflexive loop? You've got to be careful about your beliefs, because if you've got biases, it will reveal them to you, or it will confirm them to you as you work through, and it will color the outcome. Here's the ladder. And Coach Sam is working through it with Lena. So that will be included for you. The other one is the left-hand, right-hand column, and you've got Ben Maynard from Product Agility to thank for that. I used to get caught out so much when it came to getting time with stakeholders. And I would never, ever say outrightly, actually, do you know what? I need time with you because this is a blocker. It's going to impact us achieving what we want at the end of this sprint. They would say to me, I'll squeeze you in. And I never counted it. But what was I thinking in my head? I'm practically begging here, just give me a few minutes. But I'd never say it. And what that allows you to do is bring authenticity to the picture. You start thinking of a previous difficult conversation that you've had, and you honestly do the left-hand, right-hand side on yourself. And you try and figure out, it's also great for coaching conversations, you try and figure out that voice of authenticity that goes on the left and how you can phrase that in a way that will get you the outcome that you need, as opposed to what happened last time in the right-hand column. Safe to fail, carry out safe to fail experiments in your sprints. This is a fun thing. You're not going to bring the world down on any tech down or anything like that, but carry out safe to fail experiments with the people that you work with. This is an awesome thing. I wouldn't rate it enough. And you can have a laugh doing this as well by not being bad, but there are some things that you can afford to have go wrong. So, thank you so much for joining me today and for interacting and for making this session really nice. Mr. Liverpool, thank you for kicking that off. I hope that as a result of our exercise right at the beginning, that you've got to know each other and perhaps your dinner plans might have changed. Thank you.